Great stories are timeless. To be a great storyteller, one must bridge the gap between an alluring narrative and the audience, to pull at the heartstrings and to shape the imagination. At Q Films Media, we're more than just a media production agency. We are a powerhouse of creative individuals, content creators who specialize in telling great stories. Stories that are intimate and kept closest to the heart. Stories that are powerful and inspiring, that spark boldness and action. We are Q Films Media. We're here to tell your story. We are always on scene.
We have the one and only Brian Gatuba with us. Welcome, my man.
Thank you for having me.
Brian actually is, I feel like, the first person, hopefully of many, to have a Netflix movie get featured based off of his screenwriting abilities. So huge congratulations to you, man. I think that is something I'm sure that you've wanted to have happen in your life ever since you got into this.
Oh yeah, for the longest time. Traces back from when I was a teenager. So it was like years and years of, putting that work and having to patiently wait and practice and perfect your craft to the best of your ability. And then just recently it paid off and it came out of nowhere. That's the surprising thing.
That's the cool thing, man. And I'm excited personally to talk about that today because for me, I love talking to people like you who created something or are in the space of making something from scratch.
Definitely.
Like whether it be filmmaking or artists or entrepreneurs, like you're a perfect fit to be a guest on our show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for considering me.
100%, man. So, with the concept, I'd like to have us dive into the screenwriting you've done for this movie.
Yes.
Right. So it's called Disconnect, The Wedding Planner.
Yes.
And I just actually watched it right before we came on.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah. It's like all nice and fresh in my head.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And I just want to say, man, first and foremost, it's a fun movie.
Yes.
You have a good written plan, you have the drama, you've got the main character who's trying to figure out I don't know how much we spoil it, but I just want to be able to share that the main character is struggling to be in a committed relationship.
Yes.
And the irony is here he is planning a wedding.
Yes.
And he's doing a crap job of it. Like he's doing a shitty job.
Exactly.
Like he's kind of like your token yes man.
Definitely. He's the kind of guy who gets to get other people to do his bidding, right? Because he, as you know, the synopsis of the movie is he has to put a destination wedding together for his friend who's an investor, and he's in a race against time. But the problem is he got scammed, right? So now that this unfortunate event has happened to him, he has to assemble his friends who end up doing the workload for him.
Yeah.
So it's basically a reflection of what he is, right? You would think that it's something that would change him, but he wouldn't see at the point. So what does he end up doing? He ends up utilizing them and just being a freeloader, right? Yeah. And so the test of trials and the experiences that he goes through forces him to make that change, which is what the primary of the narrative was.
Yeah, it's unique. And I want to know, man, like what inspired you to write something like that? Because I'm watching this and the whole time I'm like, Brian created this, right? Like this whole script, everything that what everyone is saying was done by you. Yes. And of course, when you're planning to write a story and you have the beginning, you have the middle, like I remember you were back in grade school, the rising action, climax, falling action, you got all of that in there.
Definitely.
So like what inspired you to write this concept and why was it so important for you?
Well, actually, so it started out with the prequel. The prequel is on Netflix as well. So back in when pandemic during the 2020, my elder sister, who actually was a heavy influence to my journey in screenwriting, she mentioned that the prequel was out, Disconnect, right? So I went and watched it. I thought it was really clever, and it was amazing that the Kenyan film industry had something on Netflix at the time. So it was being in the diaspora, it was something to be proud of, right? And then I that was in December. So the following year, which was in the summertime, I got reached out to by the director who I had been in contact with the previous years. He said he wanted me to do a concept, pitch him a concept on a sequel that he was looking to do, because Netflix had approached him and asked him to do a follow-up based on their on their prequel. And so he reached out to me and is like, okay, this is what I want. I want to focus on Otis, and I want him to do a destination wedding, and I want Nigerians in it, and I want it to be in the coast. So the coast is the eastern province. It's the south. It's on the southeast of Kenya. So Mombasa is where most of the story takes place, which is a tourist area as well. So
it's a beautiful area.
Definitely.
Or was.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I ended up doing was coming together, trying to combine ideas. I reached out to my partner. She gave me her insights, which I'm really truly grateful for, because she's watched a lot of TV shows. She's read a lot of books. And for me, that was like, okay, maybe I should take advantage of that. And so she gave me her 2 cents, and I just went back on the drawing board. This was a week. I had a week to pitch. Then he reached out to me, and he reached out again. I pitched to him, and he was really excited. But he specifically, what he was looking for was for Otis to have vulnerability in him, and him being a womanizer. And as you can also see in the prequel, he struggles to be in a committed relationship. And so he wanted to explore on the vulnerabilities. He wanted Otis to be thrown against something so unfortunate and try to work through it, and at the same time try to change from it, right? So it will be, at the very beginning, he'll be a womanizer, and then in the end, he'll be someone who's in a committed relationship or beginning to be in a committed relationship. So that actually was from a personal, it was from a personal story of mine. So and actually it was my partner.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So this, like, you felt like Otis was channeling a part of you in your life. Definitely. Damn. So when me and my partner, she was had just split from her marriage, and we were friends at the time. So we were just seeing each other, and I was just socializing, just having the time of my life, right? Yeah. Because it was at that time I was starting to understand how things are done in the dating world. So I didn't expect her to be that person who keep me grounded, who challenged me, and help me reach greater heights and walk me through life, right? So I didn't expect that at the time. So I was very afraid. We had the situation of, where are we? What are we? Right? Are we in a relationship? Was this just a thing? Is this a fling, right? So what are we calling this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. What are we? What is this?
Reach that stage.
You reach that stage.
Just like that first scene, right? Exactly. You walk on the first scene of the movie, and they're like, the girl's like, what are we? And the guy's like, definitely. I told you, we're nothing.
We're nothing. We're nothing. We're just seeing each other.
But in your personal case, it was different, right?
And that scene also was kind of,
it was from
there was little elements of it. Right?
I love it.
So,
because it's real.
It's real.
You could watch that movie, and what's nice about it is it's relatable for some people. Yes. There's also those moments where you're like, this could really happen, and this is happening to a lot of people. It's not just like, let's see each other, and we're calling each other boyfriend, girlfriend without even addressing if we are or not. Many people end up in this situation.
They end up in that situation, and there's no define in it. There's no labeling. So they figure, okay, there's an attraction. we'll just, have that agreement where we do A, B, C, D, and no strings attached, right? So it gets on for a while, but emotions, especially one of the parties, they tend to rise, and then you realize you probably have a good vibe, and I guess for some people, they want to have a sense of belonging. They don't want to be alone. They want to do things with that person because they feel comfortable, they feel safe around them. And I guess for the person, well, in my case and in Otis' case, we fear commitment because it means there's going to be change. There's going to be a different way of doing things. You're going to involve somebody in your life. So as you can also see towards the end when he was having that conversation, that deep conversation, he was afraid, right? So for me, I had to make that decision. Okay, am I going to be single for the rest of the time here? Am I going to look back and realize that I made a poor decision to let her go? Okay, let me just jump in. I know I'm scared, but let me just jump in and let me commit. Let's see where it goes. If it doesn't happen, if it doesn't lead to anywhere, okay, then we try it. But if it's successful, then we really made the right move. So that's where the inspiration started.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I love how it comes from such a personal place.
Yes.
And with a movie like that, how could it not?
Yeah.
Right? It's like it must come from a place of relatability.
Absolutely.
And man, like I find this is something that, of course, some women I'm sure struggle with, but men more so.
Yeah.
Is it wasn't really addressed in the movie, but one can assume that perhaps he's been burned before by love.
Absolutely.
Right? Like you're just under the impression of like, okay, well, sees and is clearly evidently attracted to this person, where back to your point about fear,
yes,
and back to being afraid of wanting to jump in, there's just people I know, like men I know in my life that are so fearful of going the quote unquote all in to this relationship.
Exactly.
Right? Because they fear that they're gonna get hurt. Definitely. Oh, it feels so good, and it feels so good that I wouldn't even want to get hurt by this person.
Yeah.
Because how am I ever gonna love again? When you feel like whoever you're with or whoever you want to be with, that's the one. And if it's not, then you're like, okay, well, good luck ever trying in the future.
Definitely.
Right? So I find that very interesting because a lot of men struggle with the thought of, it's not even gonna try.
I have a lot of friends that actually are single. Some of them they can't commit. They're afraid to commit for reasons. Maybe they like their lifestyle, or they've seen how relationships can be very exhausting. Relationships, let's not beat around the bush. It's not a bed of roses. It requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of sacrifice. It requires you to evolve. Some guys are afraid of change. Some men are afraid to be vulnerable because we live in a society where the alpha male mindset is very practiced. It's been going on for thousands and thousands of years from the early caveman, right? So they don't want to trade that part. Whereas for me personally, I struggled with vulnerability. Like I was the nicest person. I wasn't getting the girls. I then decided to become an a-hole. Yeah. Still did not get the girls.
It's not working.
It's not working. I decided then I had the opportunity to be in a work environment where there were a lot of women. And I started, I thought actually I would see if I could start going out with them at the workplace, which is not a good idea. So I stayed off of that. But what I ended up learning was that they had this sense of vulnerability. It got to a point where I thought I was about to get released from my workplace. So I thought I'd be, this macho guy who's able to, race against time and win. Didn't work. So I ended up having to deal with my vulnerability and confront it, right? Like confront that fear. Instead of wrestling with your vulnerability, embrace it. There's strength in vulnerability. And I think a lot of men prefer that strength of wanting to look good. They want to feel on top of the world. But its reasons are run deep, right? So this one technique in filmmaking is figuring out the emotional wound of a character. So with Otis, I didn't delve into it too much, but I could say that maybe he got played with when he was back when his younger days. Maybe his dad was a womanizer. Maybe his mom did not believe in love, or his mom was very dominant in the house, or he lived in an environment where he was made to feel, not very confident in himself, and or there was emotional negligence growing up. So there's so many diagnoses, so many channels on why, or reasons why he ended up being what he wanted to be. So
you could see that in like the validation he seeks from others.
Exactly.
Right. In the hey, you gave me your word. What about when you give me your word, you have to do it?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Like holding on to those things if someone says or does something.
Exactly. Right? And that's a very good point. I even didn't notice that.
Yeah, I noticed.
You're good.
It's fresh, man. That's what happens when you just watch the movie, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I appreciate that perspective. And it's also interesting as a writer, when you write something and other people, when they read it or it's brought to screen, other people have their own interpretations of it. So I really appreciate that. Nice. Right. So now I'm learning something from someone about something that I wrote that I didn't see from the other side. That's cool, right? Man. So I appreciate you for that. So definitely he's afraid to tackle, right? He's afraid to tackle something that's actually preventing him from becoming a well-grounded person, right? So childhood traumas are always a reason why we behave the way we behave. There's probably a reason why you don't trust people or how you behave in a certain way, because you have a shield based off of an experience that happened to you when you were a kid, or when you were a teenager, or in your early 20s.
So those walls, right? Like walls are up for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? Because then you think every other person's going to do what happened to you based off of similar, let's say, scenarios.
Exactly.
Or just similar characteristics in somebody.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And those and that fear creates lies, right? So you can see that if he commits to this relationship, he feels that there's going to be a breakup or things are not going to work out, and he doesn't want any of that, right? So people fear failure, especially relationships, because you invest in a lot of time, right? And for him to invest in that time and not get anything in return, it'll be all vanity at the end of the day, right? So yeah, basically, I felt like that. I could relate to him, and my biggest fear to commit at the time, I had to like look myself in the mirror and say, okay, we gotta go all in. It's all in or nothing, right? And when the ship sails, it sails, right?
Yeah. No, it's so true, man. Wow,
definitely,
that's cool.
Yeah, and just not to dominate the conversation, I was just gonna add something. So with writers, you have to write what you know, right? So I'll give you I learned that from Stephen King, right?
Cool.
He's my man. One
of the greatest writers of all time.
Exactly. I just actually came off reading a book, Misery. Oh my gosh, it is wild. You have to, if you got time, read it. It's probably one of his best pieces.
Misery.
Misery. Kathy Gates, I think it became a movie, and the actress who played Annie, she won an Oscar for that. And,
oh wow!
Yeah,
Annie being one of the main characters in Misery.
Main characters. Yeah. So basically, a writer gets involved in a car accident and ends up in the custody of a nurse who has who's deemed a psychopath, and she makes him resurrect a character after he killed it off. Right. So he finished the book, and the main character, she died. And when the nurse read that, she was pissed off and said, "You have to resurrect her. I'm gonna make you resurrect her." So it was basically similar. He was in captivity, and he was made to work as a slave.
That's insane. Yeah. To get inside Stephen King's brain.
Yeah, definitely.
Like that's
and it was interesting when I read on the on his creative process around that. He's basically dealing with addiction. Right.
At that time in his life?
At that time in his life. So this was back in the 80s when he was getting more noticed, right? And he was getting more commercial success. he had struggled with alcohol and drugs, I do believe. And so it got to a point where he had an intervention with his loved ones, especially his wife, who's his like partner in crime. So they had to sit him down and talk to him and say, hey, bro, you gotta face
fix this shit, man.
Fix this shit, or you're not going anywhere, and we're gonna suffer as a result, right? So he had to turn around and deal with it. And so with Misery, the character Annie was his addictions screaming at him and having a hold of him, right? And the writer is him. It's just a reflection of him and how he was trying to navigate through his situations. So.
Well, here's someone who takes the suffering they experience and they turn it into something that they can become successful from.
Yes.
I think this is the thing we are starting to become more aware of, where it's not all sunshine and rainbows to get to that final product.
Yeah.
He had to personally suffer, and he took that suffering and applied it into a completely different character.
Exactly.
Like that's powerful stuff right there.
Definitely. And that's the beauty of writing. It helps you through address traumatic experiences or struggles, right? So stuff that you struggle to bring out onto the open, or you're trying to get out. It's like you're trying to deal with that pain, right? And there's no other way. And sometimes just the pen and paper will do, because the brain is really, really remarkable with how it relays its thoughts, right? So in a sense, he was dealing with his pain and he was trying to address it, and it was therapy for him, right? And it's also an inspiration for readers or people who struggle with addictions or who've been in kind of all sorts of experiences. When an author or writer writes something that they can relate to, it feels like they're being
it's huge.
Spoken to.
I love that you said that. David Goggins, I'm sure as you've heard, right?
Yeah.
He's wrote his second book, and it was really cool. He was talking to Joe Rogan about this.
Yeah.
And he's like, Joe, you think I could just write this second book and expect it to become successful if I talk to my audience in the perspective I'm in now?
Yeah.
He's like, it's impossible. He's like, I need to go back to the shit I went through.
Yeah.
I need to go back to that mindset.
Exactly.
And I need to go back to what that felt like.
Yes.
Growing up in my life with the hell that I went through.
Yeah.
He's like, my audience connects to that.
Yes.
He's like, they don't connect to successful Goggins.
Exactly.
He's like, I don't talk much about how my life looks right now. Because he's like, if I'm honest with you, he's like, life's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
He's like, people aren't going to connect to that.
Yeah.
He's like, people aren't going to connect to that. So he's like, I got to bring it back to what I went through when I was in the fucking dirt.
Yeah.
And, when I was just like, I couldn't even see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
He's like, people will connect to that shit. Not the life I live now. And that was unique to even hear that. And it reminds me of, once again, like that championship mentality where there's some fighters that talk about this too, where it's like, every time you go and defend the belt, it's different when you say I'm defending it compared to I'm fighting for it to still earn it.
Yeah,
as opposed to
exactly.
defending it. 'Cause defending it sounds like I have it.
It's funny how you mentioned that. I when I was younger, I was age 8. We used to have this pictures of cats, and they would have these funny quotes. I don't know if you've ever seen those like motivation quotes with pictures. But this one was more, it wasn't more motivational. It actually was motivational kind of way, but in a humorous twist, clever kind of way. This one particularly stuck with me. And now that you mentioned that with champions defending their titles, the quote said, becoming number one is better than staying number one. Right. Yeah. So it's definitely, and to go back to the author, it's people relate more to you with your struggles, with your pain, because that's what they go through on a daily basis. When they see this fancy guy living this fancy life, it doesn't appeal to them. A character living a perfect life is not very appealing. You don't have any emotional connection, right? So it's very important for the author to sink into those experiences they had back in the day, because then that way he's speaking to the readers and letting them know that he's not alone in their struggles. So it's basically saying, hey, I see you. I know what you're going through. We can pull this through together, right? So it becomes more like a team. Everybody's moving as a unit, right? And that's why I actually love writing, because it introduces me to those dark times, or those like skeletons that in my closet, those experiences that I've put away, that I have to bring back up and, just deal with them.
Yeah, you're bringing it to life. And this is a good, segue into what I want to ask you is, as a writer, I can't help but imagine you thinking of what your characters look like. Yeah. And there might be two aspects to this question, because it's new to my understanding. There was a prequel of your movie. Yes. So I definitely need to look into that and watch it later, right? Just in a different order. Definitely. But the first part of this is it the same cast from the previous movie?
Well, there are six members. The six main cast members are from the prequel. There's some from the sequel. I mean, from the prequel. There's some actors who couldn't come back due to personal reasons and everything.
Yeah. So there's some of them that are the same, and then there was some switches. Yeah. So that's fair, because the second piece of this is how much does it personally matter to you, or how much of a decision did you even get in who got to be the characters? Or let's just say, even if you know this, if it wasn't the sequel of a movie that was already existing, is like, how much does that matter to you as a writer to be like, you know what? This is not the one, like if Matthew McConaughey was going to be the main character of my story I wrote, and I'm like, I wasn't picturing Matthew McConaughey. I was picturing another guy. Exactly. Because the reason why I asked that is, I'll give you a good example. One of my favorite books of all time. It's called Shantaram. I don't know if you heard of it.
Yeah, I think I heard of it.
Yeah, it's by Gregory David Roberts.
Yeah, is it the one that they made a movie out of it?
They did.
Apple.
Exactly.
I gotta go watch that.
Oh man, brilliant! And I encourage you, Brian. If you can read the book beforehand. Yeah. And it relates to this because I had an image in my head. Of who the main character looks like. I had an image of who the main character's buddy looked like. Exactly. So all of this being based off of a little bit of true events. Besides that point is when I saw that Apple featured the televised version, like a series of the book. I looked and I was very, first of all, satisfied. Yeah. Because who they chose, I looked and I went, that's the one. That's the one. I was like, that definitely fits. Yeah. And even down to each cast member, I was like, you know what? Like, you could tell it made me very satisfied. Yeah. Because I was like, man, like, they must have put a lot of time and effort into choosing who they're going to have. Definitely. Especially when a reader in their own imagination has an idea of how these characters look and feel.
No worries. Okay, let me approach that question in two parts, and I'll address what you were thinking about. I'll address it in the second part. So, as the writer, I didn't have that creative power, right? So I was just brought in to bring this plot to life and try to figure out these characters and make something very compelling. So as far as casting decisions went, it was all the director and the production company, right?
Off your hands.
So it was off my hands. I just had to tell it to the best of my ability and then try to suggest this is the way the character thinks, this is the way he's going to go. These are his perks. This is his personality. This is what he's dealing with. It was my responsibility to make sure that I had that. As far as casting went, I didn't go there, unfortunately. But to actually cross-examine that, there's some filmmakers that only works if you're a filmmaker. If you're going to be writing and directing it, then you have a more a more powerful decision in who you want to cast, who you feel will be your character. There's some writers / filmmakers who write roles specifically for a person, right? And it's that person that they want to act in. I'll give you an example, and this one I think you'll find very interesting. I don't know if you've watched that movie. It's Adam Sandler.
It's so funny because I was thinking that you're probably thinking of Adam Sandler. I swear to God.
Forgetting that name. What was it? What was the?
Because he's the type of person
yeah.
where it's like Adam Sandler or nobody. We got to write this script for Adam Sandler.
Yeah, but actually the funny thing was they did. You seen that movie Uncut Gems?
Oh, okay. So that's the one that was featured on Netflix. I saw maybe the first half. I have to finish it, but brilliant.
Brilliant. So the Safdie brothers, right? They're both. I actually love them. I love the work that they've done with Good Time and also with Uncut Gems. So they specifically wrote that role for Adam Sandler, right? And it was 10 years prior to the movie being made. They were like, okay, we're doing this. We want to write this movie and we want Adam Sandler in it. This role is for him. So they actually tried to get him to do it, but Adam Sandler was like, nah, I'm not having it.
No way.
Yeah, and it felt like there was a rejection going on there. So they still went on with the story, and I think they developed the story for like 10 years. Like it took them a decade to write it the way they needed to write it. And then I think they approached, don't quote me on the details, but they did reapproach him and pitched it to him, and he was interested in it because the character, as you can see how reckless he is in the movie and how he goes about getting money and gambling, right? The way he goes about trying to accomplish his things and making those people around him suffer or bringing inconvenience to those around him, it was like mind-blowing. And the funny thing was, he ended up getting nominated for an Oscar for that role.
Damn.
Yeah. So that goes to show that there can be cases where, as a writer, as a filmmaker, you can. Sorry about that.
No, don't worry. That's my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it goes to show that there are filmmakers out there who can actually get what they want, right? They can get that actor that they want to be in the film that they like to be. So there's some actors, they'll look at it, they'll be like, no, this is not for me, right? I don't think I'm the perfect role, and that's okay, because you end up finding someone else who is a better suit for that role. So it's a give and take situation. Yeah that's cool to learn, man. Like it goes to show the level of preparation a writer has going into already perhaps having an actor in mind for it. Yes. Right? Yes. I want to know, man, like, I mean, before I even get into that, it just reminded me of even the type of genres an actor wants to be in. Not to go a little off topic on this one, but it's okay. Man, like, Matthew McConaughey said this. He was just promoting his recent book that he just put out, which is still on my hit list to read. And what inspires me about him is he's the type of actor that wants to challenge himself in different type of movies. And he was known originally as a rom-com guy. And he'd get paid millions for it. Right? Gets into the movies. He's a stud, handsome guy, good character. Let's just throw him in the rom-coms. The ladies are going to love him. Well, let's all make millions. That was kind of the plan. And he reached a point after doing however many, he got bored. Exactly. He was just like, man, like screenwriters, directors would be like, hey, man, let's make a quick 25 mil. Here's a script. Read it. Tell us what you think. And this was at the time he was talking about where he was getting a lot of options. People were offering him money, and he gets this one, and he's like, "Fuck!" He's like, "Not another rom-com." Right. So he tells his agent, "Tell him no." And then the agent's like, "You're gonna say no to this? It could be a blockbuster hit. 10 million." He's like, "No." So they go back to him, and they go, "You know what? Tell him we'll do it for 20." He's like, if I read the script again, it's not going to change. No, I'm okay. So they go back to him. They said, we'll do it for 35 million. Really? Something like that. Like outrageous. Like the number just kept increasing. For real. So then he just takes a big gulp. He's like, let me read that script again. He's like, hold on, 35 mil. And he goes, you know what? He's like, this is me putting my foot down and making a stance on this.
I'm saying no to this because I'm saying no to rom-coms forever.
Yeah.
If I have to start over, and if I have to get my foot in the door, I want to be in a film that makes me challenge the skill sets that are needing to be challenged as an actor.
Exactly.
He's like, I'm sorry, I go in this rom-com. I'm Matthew McConaughey. I'm the same guy.
Yeah.
He's like, put me in a situation where I'm gonna have to be forced to be someone I'm not.
Exactly.
He's like, that's why I went into this industry.
Yeah, exactly.
And he said that I'm gonna take a chance on this, and if no one accepts me, I accept it. I'll go back to teaching.
Yeah.
I'll go back to be getting paid $60,000 a year.
Yeah.
And he's like, but it's gonna be worth it.
Yeah.
Because I want to challenge myself.
Definitely.
He said no to that, man.
Yeah.
He said, hands down, it was one of the best decisions he's ever made in his career.
Absolutely.
And it's like, that to me speaks volumes. Because it's like, you can get anyone to pay you any certain amount of money.
Yeah.
But if it's not you being you in the process, or why you just started to do something that made you want to have so much love for doing it in the first place, then why do it?
Exactly.
You know, and that speaks volumes to me, man.
No, that's actually interesting because there was this actor, I can't remember the name of this movie, but it was starred Mariah Carey in it, and it was Mariah Carey was in it.
She was in it?
Yeah, and I think it was called Precious or something.
Okay. Is that the one where it was the overweight football player?
No,
Sandra Bullock, maybe?
No. It was not that one. That's The Blind Side. But there was an overweight
woman, I think.
Yeah, overweight.
Oh, okay. And it was her and Mariah.
So the actress, I think her name was, I don't know if his name was Monique or Monique. She won the what is it? She won an Oscar for supporting actress.
Okay, wow.
And in her closing speech, she said, it's not what is popular, it's what's right. So Matthew did take that, he decided to step up and say, okay, I'm not dealing with this rom-com BS. I am going to challenge myself. I'm going to be doing things that will actually help me understand what humanity is all about. Because that's what I do believe he was trying to do. He was trying to go different areas of life or in the world and try to learn things, right? So being a rom-com guy would only limit him, right?
Exactly.
So he refused to own or entertain that label that was given to him. So he wanted to be more of an explorer, because I think that's what with film and acting, it's just not you saying your lines or you trying to be this character. It's you trying to figure out, okay, what is this character's view of the world? What is it that he's dealing with that I can learn from or I can sympathize with, right? So he jumps on different characters, as you can see. My actual favorite one of his was from True Detective. I don't know if you ever seen that.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, you need to see True Detective season 1, and then you'll understand why he said no.
Yeah, once you see a different side of him, right?
Yeah, you see, and you're like, and when he said it was the best decision in his life, you watching that, you'll actually concur, right?
Nice.
So basically the thing with film, with acting, is you're trying to show the audience what reality is right now, and how it speaks to you.
You're selling it. You're really selling it.
Exactly.
It's one of my favorite things, man, about guys like Will Smith, Robin Williams.
Exactly.
Another great one, rest in peace, was Heath Ledger, who played the Joker.
Yeah.
Heath Ledger, my bad.
Yeah, no worries.
These guys, man, actually, they invested so much into their roles that it caused issues in their personal life.
Yeah.
Not that it has to get to that point, but you worded it perfectly, man, earlier, where it's like you immerse yourself so much into the role that you become the role.
Yeah, definitely. Even Daniel Day-Lewis, he was notorious for that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, sinking in the roles. And it's you get to understand these, you view these characters, they're just not humans. They're humans with a unique way of doing things and how they see the world. And so when you decide to be vulnerable and you decide to step in their shoes or represent them, right, then I feel that you're learning more, right? And if you're trying to be the type of actor that jumps from different roles that speak to you, then I think you're growing. And it's no disrespect. There's some actors who would rather, stick to one genre, rom-com, action,
let me cash out, get my check, call it a day.
Yeah.
5 years, I'll need another payday again.
Exactly. You got bills to pay, and that's no problem. There's no disrespect. They're going to be those actors, and for what they do is fine. What they do for them, maybe they just love to entertain. But then there's some actors who decide to take a certain route, or filmmakers decide to take a route and try to challenge themselves and try to see perspectives or experiences from a different lens, right? So
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I want to pick your brain on this, because I find that we are a podcast where we know and preach the importance of networking, connecting with people, knowing that you can't ever do things all on your own.
Exactly.
To take things to the next level, like it takes a nation, and from your perspective, from a screenwriter's perspective, like what better person to talk to about this? Because you can't put your idea truly to life without the director and the actors.
Exactly.
Right? Unless, let's just say you want to write it as a novel format. That's a whole other discussion. But my understanding is you're writing and you're in the field to eventually have this be put out in production, right?
Yes.
So what would your suggestion be, man, for those in whatever field they're in? Maybe they are in film, maybe they're not. What are some hot takes, man, you can give us on this is what helps me when it comes to networking. Here's what I did to connect to directors. Here's what I said. Here's what I showcased. A lot of it, you and I both know, is relationship building. But what would your tips be, man, when it comes to you want to do something as big as land on Netflix? You want to do anything that's the highest level in your field, and it takes other people to connect to. Exactly. What's your strategy around that?
Well, networking is a really, how do I put it? For me personally, it's very mysterious. You can go network with the people with the cash in their pockets, right? You can build these relationships and then it takes forever, or it can just happen immediately. Best thing to do is be yourself, right? I know from what I learned from interacting with filmmaking communities and acting communities with people who want to be directors and writers. They want to know what type of person you are, right? You're just not networking. I'm not networking with you for the sake of you giving me work. I want to know you would want to know what type of person I am. How do I work? How do I perceive life, right? It becomes hence that relationship thing, right? So it for me with networking, it's you have those interactions. There's some people that you will blend in with. Then there's some people that you will just go to a dead end with, right? A dead end, sorry. But what I would say is keep building relationships. I don't know if there's a specific formula for it. All I know is you gotta be yourself. You gotta keep interacting, but at the same time, you gotta keep that work going, right?
I like that. I like it. The whole concept behind the dead end perspective.
Yes.
Right. Is network to connect with the person. That's it.
Yeah.
And if it ends up reaching a destination, great.
Yeah.
Right. But sometimes people get a little too ahead of themselves. Like, I want to connect to this person so we can make that money.
Yeah.
Or I want to connect to this person so we can get that project done.
Yeah.
And now you're almost blinded by the person.
Yeah.
Like you're not seeing them for who they are.
Exactly. And that's the thing. For me personally, I'm not an aggressive networker. I'm more like, I like to build relationships with somebody and just interact with them. Like, it's more like a friendship, or I can learn something from somebody. It doesn't even necessarily have to be in the film industry. I find that, okay, let's say you're a producer or a studio executive, I'll just vibe with you. We'll chat, right? And then I'll go do my own thing.
Yeah, like we'll have things in common. There'll be things that we could talk about.
We could talk about. Maybe I could approach you for like a tip on how do I deal with this A, B, C, D. Maybe the time for us to work together has not come into play, right? So you have to find it feels like you have to find people that you actually are able to march on the same drum beat, right? To go back on your what you said earlier, that people want to network with you because they want to get something out of you, right? So they want to make money immediately. But the way film works is it does not happen that way. I can come with you with a cool concept. I could do an awesome script for you, but it's going to take a while until it actually becomes a final product, right? We're living in an age where people want things now, where there's impulse, right? There is immediate results, right? But networking, for me, from what I've seen, from what I've experienced, it's a process, right? So with the director guy, I met him, what was it, 2018? Yeah, 2018. Met, we're linked up. Yeah, so it was like 3 years. We just talked, we vibed, we were happy. We made jokes, we were laid back, and then he reached out to me. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's keep going. And you'll be surprised that the ones that you actually connect with, they will reach back to you. And surprisingly enough, you might have a good work relationship, right? Because when I network with somebody, if somebody wanted to network with me and then they want me to invest in their project, I don't know who they are, right? I don't know what they're capable of. I don't know if what they say is true, right? I don't know if they deliver on their promises, right? So I'm just investing blindly. So even as you can see back in Disconnect, Otis and Delay, right? They were friends. He managed to get him to invest in his thing, but there was no what is it? There was no solidarity. There was no realness.
That's a great example, actually.
Exactly.
Back to the movie, right?
Exactly. Back to the movie. So they had been friends, but he wanted things from others. And
yeah, I just want your money, man.
I just want your money. That's it. But I don't want to be your friend.
And then how much it looks, and especially from the movie's perspective, where it's like, yo, this is tit for tat. I'm planning your wedding. Now you do your end of the bargain.
Exactly.
So it's not done with like love. It's not done with like this sense of like, man, like I'm gonna do your wedding because I care about you.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, okay, we messed up.
Yeah.
All right, let's fix that.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, we messed up. Who cares? Look where we are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're on a beach. We got this stuff. What more do you want?
Exactly.
Right. Like when he's like flipping them off behind their back.
Exactly.
And the irony was she was listening to the whole thing, and it's like that's a good example of like someone who is like they're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, doing it for the wrong reasons.
And they're so caught up in looking so far ahead. Yeah. That's why, man, like not to take it a whole other direction, but I recently left the corporate world.
Yeah.
I was guilty of this. Yeah. Even some people I supervise were guilty of this. It was like, when am I gonna get promoted?
Yeah.
When am I this? When am I that? It's like, you know what? Yeah. There's 1,000 hurdles in front of me.
Exactly.
1,000 hurdles in front of you. You're looking at the 1,000th hurdle.
Yeah.
You can barely see it. It's so far out in the distance.
Yeah.
So how do you expect to go over every single other one when you're looking that fucking far away?
Exactly.
Right? So look at the hurdle in front of you.
Exactly.
Right? Let the promotion surprise you.
Yeah.
Let it come to you.
Definitely.
Right? The way that this is a perfect example.
Absolutely.
Your director came to you.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, I got an awesome idea. Let's do this.
Exactly.
And it should be like, oh, great.
Yeah.
You got this. It almost feels like you got to hand it to you on a silver platter, right?
I know. That's what it felt like. And it was like I did network, didn't go anywhere for the amount of years. It also got to a point where, okay, let me make films myself and let me see if I can put myself out there. Didn't go anywhere. And then one day he approached me out of nowhere, and I'm like, okay, let's do this.
That's
right?
cool.
And at the time I felt like I was a little bit more grounded.
You're ready.
You were ready for it. Whereas if you're thinking like if you're a short-term thinker, you want it now, it doesn't work, because you probably have to go through some lessons in life. You probably have to go through some experiences that will actually build your character. You have to go through character building situations. Going back to, if I had met him back in 2008 and told him, oh, I got this concept, let's do this. And he'd be like, okay. Comparing where I was in 2018 to 2021, I was not that grown up. I wasn't much of a grown up. I didn't have the skills, the work ethic, right? The what it took to write that script, right? 2018, I was just writing short film scripts, right? And I didn't know where the hell I would be going with this, with the story, or I didn't have the skills to tell the story the way it was supposed to be told. So I feel like between that time, you needed to develop. You needed to develop as a person. You needed to develop in your skill. You needed to view life in a mature kind of way. So I had to go through some maturity. Yeah.
I can't. That's beautiful, man. Like, that's such a good example of not only the work that you choose to do, but I couldn't help but think, because everything you said relates to me with love.
Yes.
Right? Like, I genuinely, with my girlfriend, I feel like who she's meeting with who I am now, good. Like, it's good you're meeting me at this stage in my life now. Exactly. Like, it's like, had this be 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, like, I don't think it would work. It's just like, it's now we're at this point where who I've becoming and her as well, like, it works.
Exactly.
You know, and it's like you said, you have to go through those things in life to reach that mindset.
Exactly.
Right? So now it doesn't have to feel like you're trying to be someone else you're not. You just are that person.
Exactly. So it's more, I think before we meet the loves of our life, like our girlfriends or our partners, we have to have this prerequisites. We have to build our own. We have to go through our own journey where we build ourselves up, right? And then when they come, it's a boost. It's like, whew, you're gone. Basically, I don't know if this analogy is going to work. It's like you got to build a rocket, right? If you want to go to space, you got to build a rocket, but then you need a launch pad and you need jet fuel, and that's where your partners come in, right? They give you that fuel to soar. Man,
that's perfect, because me and my audience, we love metaphors, man. So I'm gonna eat that right up, right?
Thank you.
No, so that's wicked, man.
Definitely.
I want to know for you, man, like what's with I feel like now that you've got in your own career, like you've got the jets on, you're up in space now, you're riding this high, your movie's out, right?
Yes.
How much of this momentum is going to carry you into what's next for you? And more so, like, are you niching into a genre? Are you open? Like, give me an idea, man, of like what's next and what you want to be next.
I think I'm open to genres.
Cool.
I actually started out with thrillers.
Nice.
Right. And then I ended up writing a rom-com.
It's like, I don't know what happened.
It's like, I don't know what happened here.
It's like, wait, it is a thriller.
Yes. Here's the villain trying to go after the detective. And Brian, you got a call. Yeah, okay. So
love it.
Then I end up writing about lovey-dovey. But
you nailed it. That's what's awesome. A thriller-esque genre interest, and then you nailed it on the rom-com.
But I think the thing was, not to downplay the rom-com, I think it was an eye-opener for me personally on understanding more of myself, right? And how I should bring out characters. I know that each project is probably going to be a little bit of me that'll be present, but
personalize it.
Personalize it, right? But I think this experience was something that needed to happen for me in order to understand, okay, maybe sticking to thrillers is not the end of the world. Maybe I can do dramas. Maybe I can do rom-coms. I realized actually comedy was going to be something hard for me. I thought it was going to be hard for me, but I realized I enjoyed writing it, and I really want to build my knowledge on it. So I like Matthew McConaughey. I don't want to stick to one genre. I want to be jumping between genres and figure out what's going on here, what's going on in this corner. So then I can understand humanity in different types of mediums, right? So
you got anything on the go right now, or?
Yeah, I do. I have a couple of short films I'm writing with a friend of mine who lives in Utah. In Salt Lake City. So
sweet.
We're actually meeting up tomorrow to start writing.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah, we are. He's actually the reason why I ended up becoming a writer. COVID time happened. Like you, I was doing the corporate I was in the corporate world.
Oh, there you go. What were you doing?
Well, I used to work for WestJet. Yeah, so I used to work at the airport in customer service. Customer service. I keep forgetting the titles. Been so long.
No worries. You're like, that's a pass now, man.
That's the past. I won't talk about it. But yeah, I was there. So then COVID happened. At the time, I was like, okay, I really should get my writing thing going. I really want to do this writing thing because there's so much you can do with a corporate life. Then COVID happened. And my friend was like, I actually went to Sundance Film Festival and met up with him. And we're inspired.
Yeah, it's like it's now or never.
Yeah, it's now or never.
How cool is that? That the moment the world shuts down, that's when we're like, you know what? Now I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna go all in on my passion,
jump on
right?
it.
When everyone's at home, it just feels like it makes more sense.
Definitely. And he was actually, the funny thing was, he was the one who was more passionate about me because I was like still attached to the safety net.
Yeah, totally.
You know how it is.
You need that push, man.
You need that push.
You need those homies. You need your loved ones to be like, what are you doing?
Exactly. And he's like, okay, bro, so this is what we're going to do. You and I, we're going to start writing scripts, right? And we're going to make this thing full time. Yeah, you dig me? And I'm like, yeah, but I got the 9 to 5. Doesn't matter about the 9 to 5. You're doing this. You are doing this. So I was like, my head, I was like, panicking. I don't know what the hell is this guy doing, but okay, let's just do it. So then when the lockdown happened, I became more overwhelmed. I didn't know what we were going to do for going back to work because everybody got sent home, and I just had that. I had that moment where I was stuck in limbo, and I told him about it, and he's like, bro, just use this as an opportunity to actually get to where you're getting to. So COVID is doing you a favor.
Totally.
Right? And another relative of mine, I had the same situation. It was actually within the same day. She's like, okay, bro, either you're going to see the light or you're going to feel the fire. Which one do you want, right? So that's what my relative told me, and then I was like, okay, I'll see the light and I'll walk towards it. So there was that fear of leaving that life. It was kind of like a movie in itself.
Oh, that's a transition.
Yeah,
man.
it was a transition. So it was you're afraid of change, right? But you have to be vulnerable because starting out as a writer, it's not a bed of roses, right? You have to get your craft right, and you have to be very attractive. You have to put in the work. It's going to be years and years before someone notices you, and then you have to probably go pull a Hail Mary and make a film out of it, and in order to attract studios and production companies. So there was those fears that were resonating in my head, but you just keep walking, you keep going.
All the more reason why it must have felt so damn good, man, to get this.
Bro, I was crying. I was crying tears.
I would, man. I would, 100%.
I was crying tears when I saw my name like going up in the credit rolls. It was one of those like
surreal.
It was surreal, and it's like,
because you know how quick that wouldn't have happened if you just went, you know what, bro, I'm good. Thank you, but for real, I'm good. I'm gonna go back to my WestJet job.
Exactly.
My comfy, guaranteed check. And that's okay.
Exactly.
And then always wondering what if. Always wondering what that could have been like.